Elira raced through the dense forest, her heart pounding with the thrill of adventure. She wasn't supposed to be this far from her village, but her curiosity had led her deeper into the woods. An odd glimmer caught her eye, a doorway seemingly carved from light, shimmering between two ancient trees. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, almost as if it didn't belong in this world. Drawn closer by the inexplicable urge, she reached out and touched it. The light enveloped her, and she stumbled forward, feeling a pull in her chest as if the very fabric of reality was stretching. When she opened her eyes, though, she was no longer in the forest. Elira found herself standing in a place unlike anything she had ever seen. The sky was an unchanging twilight, casting a golden hue over a vast kingdom. Towering spires reached towards the heavens, and everything seemed bathed in an eternal glow. It was beautiful, but there was a strange stillness, an unsettling quiet, that made her skin prickle. A figure approached, an elegant man with ageist features and cold, calculating eyes. He seemed surprised to see her, and his voice was smooth as silk when he spoke. "You're not supposed to be here, child. How did you find this place?" I don't know," Elira stammered. "I just touched the door and then..." The man's eyes narrowed. "Immortal? Here? Impossible. This kingdom exists outside of time, sealed away from the mortal realm." Elira's confusion deepened, but before she could ask more, she was surrounded by a group of beings who looked almost human, yet their expressions were strangely empty. They murmured amongst themselves, casting uneasy glances her way. "Take her to the council," the man ordered. "They'll decide what to do with this intruder." Elira's heart sank. She had stumbled into a world she didn't understand, and now it seemed like she was at the mercy of its immortal inhabitants. The council chamber was vast, echoing with a silence that felt heavy and oppressive. Elira was led to the center, standing before a semicircle of thrones. The beings seated there radiated an ancient power, their faces serene yet distant, as though they were looking through her rather than at her. "Who are you, child?" asked the woman at the center, her voice both melodic and stern. Her name, Elira would later learn, was Queen Seraphine, the ruler of this timeless kingdom. "My name is Elira. I don't know how I got here," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The council members exchanged glances, murmuring amongst themselves. One of them, a stern-faced man named Alaric, leaned forward. "She shouldn't be here. No mortal has entered our realm for centuries. This is a breach of the seal. There must be a reason," Queen Seraphine mused. "Nothing happens by chance in our kingdom." Elira could feel their eyes boring into her, weighing her worth. It was as if they were looking for something within her, something she wasn't aware of herself. Suddenly a loud argument broke out among the council members, their calm facades cracking. Alaric's voice rose above the rest. "We cannot afford any disruptions now, not with the unrest brewing. The girl must be sent back immediately, before she becomes a catalyst for the chaos already at our doorsteps." Elira's eyes widened. "Chaos? What do you mean?" Alaric's gaze snapped to hers, and for a moment, she saw fear in his eyes. He quickly masked it with anger. "You know nothing, mortal. You've already seen too much." Before he could speak further, Queen Seraphine raised her hand. "Enough, Alaric. There is something about this girl. Something familiar." Elira felt the weight of the queen's gaze, as if she were being peeled apart layer by layer. Then Seraphine's eyes widened with a sudden realization, and her expression turned to shock. "This cannot be," Seraphine whispered. "She bears the mark of the lost heir." The words hung in the air like a fog, making Elira's heart race. "The lost heir?" she echoed, confusion and disbelief wearing within her. "Yes," Seraphine said, standing from her throne. Her movements were slow, as if weighed down by an unimaginable burden. "Centuries ago, a child was taken from us, hidden away in the mortal world to escape the curse of our immortality. That child was the true heir to the throne." Alaric's face twisted with anger. "You cannot be serious, Seraphine. This girl is immortal. It's impossible." "Is it?" Seraphine's voice was tinged with sadness. "Look at her closely, Alaric. She carries the same light in her eyes as the first king, the same mark upon her skin." Elira instinctively touched her wrist, where a faint, birthmark-like sigil had always been. Her mother once told her it was a sign she was special, but she never imagined it would mean something like this. "I don't understand," Elira said, her voice small. "I'm just a girl from the village. How can I be the heir?" "You were hidden to protect you," Seraphine explained, "to save you from the curse that had begun to unravel our minds. We sealed ourselves away from the flow of time, but in doing so we condemned ourselves to a madness that grows stronger with each passing century. Elira took a step back, shaking her head. No, this isn't possible. I don't belong here. I want to go home. You have a choice to make, child, Seraphine said softly. You can leave, return to your mortal life, and forget all about this. Or you can stay and claim your birthright. The kingdom needs its rightful ruler if we are to survive. Alec's expression hardened. This is madness, Seraphine. We cannot place our hopes on a mere child. The kingdom is already on the brink of civil war. The immortals are losing their grip on sanity. And this girl cannot change that. Elira looked between them, feeling the weight of a decision she wasn't prepared to make. I don't even know if I believe any of this, she whispered. How can I be the one to save you? That is something only you can decide, Seraphine replied, her eyes filled with a pleading sadness. But know this, if you walk away now, our kingdom may fall, and the madness will spread beyond our borders. Elira stood there, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. Could she really turn her back on these people? On this part of herself she never knew existed? Elira felt the enormity of her decision pressing down on her. She wanted to flee back to the familiarity of her village, but the desperation in Queen Seraphine's eyes made her pause. The immortals, once serene and wise, now seemed like fragile statues, crackling under the weight of their eternal lives. Their whispers filled the air like 1,000 voices trapped in an echo chamber. I need time to think, Elira said, her voice trembling. There is no time, Alec snapped. The factions are forming as we speak. Half the council believes that we must expand their reach, invade the mortal world to escape this madness. The other half clings to our isolation, hoping that the curse will simply fade. If you do not take the throne, this kingdom will tear itself apart. Elira's hands balled into fists. She had never asked for this responsibility, never wanted it. Yet, she had always been just a girl, ordinary, or so she thought. But the mark on her wrist pulsed with a strange warmth now, as if it recognized the truth she was unwilling to accept. I need to see it, she said suddenly. Show me what's really happening outside these walls. Seraphine hesitated, then nodded. Very well. You deserve to know what you're choosing to save or abandon. She led Elira to the balcony overlooking the heart of the kingdom. Below them, the city that had once been filled with light and laughter now lay shrouded in a mist of uncertainty. The mortal beings roamed the streets, their expressions vacant, eyes darting nervously. Some were shouting, their voices sharp with anger, while others sat huddled together, lost in their own endless thoughts. This is what we have become, Seraphine whispered, her voice filled with a sorrow that stretched back centuries. In our quest to escape time, we have lost ourselves. We were meant to be eternal guardians, but now we are prisoners of our own immortality. Elira watched the scene unfold below, feeling a pang of sympathy she hadn't expected. It was clear that these beings were once wise and powerful, but now they seemed like broken reflections of their former selves. She could feel their despair, their madness seeping into the air like a poison. They need someone to guide them, Seraphine said softly. Someone who can bridge the gap between the mortal world and ours. You are that bridge, Elira. You were meant to be our queen. Elira turned away from the balcony, her heart heavy. What if I can't save them? What if I make things worse? Alec stepped forward, his face edged with doubt. You are our last hope, whether you want it to be or not. The choice is yours. But understand this. If you leave, this kingdom will descend into chaos. The curse will spread beyond our borders, affecting even the mortal world as well. Tears pricked the corners of Elira's eyes. She had come here by accident, a girl chasing a curiosity. Now she stood at the crossroads of fate. Could she really turn her back on this, knowing the consequences? For the first time, she felt the stirrings of something deep within her. A sense of duty, a connection to this place she hadn't fully understood. But it was enough to make her pause, to make her consider the impossible. I need time, she whispered again, but this time it was a plea to herself more than anyone else. Seraphine nodded, understanding. We have until sunset. Then we must act, one way or another. Elira nodded, turning away as the sun dipped lower into the sky. The weight of destiny sat heavily on her shoulders, and knew that she had a choice to make, one that would change the course of both worlds forever. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. Elira stood alone in the garden where ancient trees whispered stories of time long past. She could feel the eyes of the kingdom on her, even if they weren't physically watching. The immortals sensed the turning point, felt the weight of her decision rippling through the air. Alaric approached her, his expression indestructible. Have you made your choice? Elira turned to face him, her hand shaking slightly. Why do you hate me, Alaric? You've made it clear that you don't want me to take the throne. Hate you, he laughed bitterly. No, child, I fear you. I fear what you represent. A change, an end to the eternity we clung to. We thought we could escape the flow of time, but you are proof that we were wrong. His words stung with truth, and Elira realized the depth of his sorrow. He wasn't just angry, he was afraid. Afraid of losing the only life he'd ever known. I don't want this, Elira said, her voice barely a whisper. But I can't ignore what I've seen. You're right. I am the change you fear. But maybe that's exactly what this kingdom needs. Before he could respond, Queen Seraphine appeared, her expression softer than it had ever been. The sun sets soon, Elira. Whatever is your decision, it must be made now. Elira took a deep breath, feeling the pull of both worlds. The mortal one where she had lived her life, and this timeless kingdom that now felt like a part of her soul. She knew that leaving would mean abandoning them to their madness, letting the curse consume everything. But staying meant giving up her life as she knew it, embracing a destiny she never asked for. I'll stay, she said finally, her voice firm despite the turmoil inside her. I'll take the throne, but on one condition. Seraphine nodded. Name it. We break the seal, Elira said. The kingdom can't stay frozen in time any longer. We need to return to the flow of time, to feel the passing of days and nights. Only then can the madness end. Alaric's eyes widened with shock. He would destroy everything we built, risk losing our immortality. Yes, Elira said simply, because immortality isn't a gift, it's a curse. It's time to set you free. For a moment there was silence, then Seraphine smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. You truly are the heir. Only someone who understands the value of time could save us. As the sun set, Elira stepped forward, taking Seraphine's hand. The kingdom shuddered, the seal breaking as time began to flow once more. The twilight sky darkened, giving way to the first true night the kingdom had seen in centuries. Elira stood tall, feeling the pulse of time beat through her veins. She was no longer just a girl. She was their queen. She had chosen to lead them into a new dawn.